You're listening to Consulting Logistics, presented by Freight Plus. I'm your host, Kyle McNaught. Thanks for checking us out. It's another SCU30 episode, the Supply Chain Under 30, where we talk to supply chain professionals working in the industry who are under the age of 30. And really, the whole idea is just to talk about the different paths people can take and the different ways they got into the supply chain. I think that it's a fascinating industry we all kind of work in. And if you're listening and you don't work into it, it's a very fun industry. And the guest today is really going to exemplify that because I've got someone international. I've got someone who didn't take the usual career path. Didn't even it's going to be fascinating. I was talking to him beforehand. I can't wait to bring him in. So let's bring him in right away. Mauricio Solano, how is it going?
Hey, Kyle, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Mauricio, I know at the time of recording, you are actually at the you live in Mexico, you're at the border of Texas, so you're dealing with the big issue that's kind of affecting everyone right now in March and February 18th of the snowstorm. I mean, talk a little bit about that before we even jump into your story and stuff. I mean, how are you handling this? What's happening around your town? How's everything going? Are you okay?
Yeah, thanks for asking. To be honest, right now I'm freezing cold and I still have the AC on. So,
You still got the AC on.
yeah, I mean, the heat is on. So, because it's cold freezing, and I really don't understand how other people are seeing us right now. But this is something that we haven't seen. I mean, in at least in my lifetime, I haven't seen it in the last 15 years. So we never prepared for this. It's kind of the risk assessment, risk management that we should have in our infrastructure, but because it never happens,
Right.
we not only get hit because of the storm or the snow, but here in the area, North Mexico, South US, specifically in Texas, the humidity is horrendous. We are in 99, 100% humidity. And when you combine that with, we're on the sea level, and then we get hit with the vortex, snow vortex, it's just a recipe for disaster. Most of the pipelines, which is one of the five modes of transportation in supply chain, got frozen. Uh, this North Mexico and South Texas and whole Texas, more specifically, we get our energy because of pipelines. When you get humidity and snow, well, who would have guessed that those pipelines that fueling our whole infrastructure and whole lives, nearly 9 million people depend on it. So that's way too many people depending on one single source of energy input and output. And well, everybody's stuck right now in their houses. But because the week is ending right now, is getting better. We just starting getting our pipelines working again. Hopefully, we'll go through this with the least amount of harm. So I could only wish the best for our folks.
Oh my gosh, man, it sounds insane. I literally I'm from Florida, right? So it was the same thing. As a kid, you're just like, oh, I'd love to see snow one day, and now you're like, oh no, 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 never, nope, we weren't ready for this thing. Never I made this mistake. Um, let's move on, all right? Let's kind of keep this a little more evergreen. Mauricio, yeah, first off, love your LinkedIn post. I mean, your little title on LinkedIn is phenomenal. I mean, the energy you bring of how can I do it better, faster, and cheaper. There you go. You're an operations professional in supply chain with a focus on total flow improvements, cost focus. Try flow focus. I dare you, dude. I love all this stuff. That's good. Let's get into it. I mean, let's talk to me a little about kind of your upbringing, what life was like, kind of growing up as a little Mauricio.
Yeah, I guess I really never care about studying. I will consider myself the average kid that will go in late on school and then just trying to pass on by the minimum amount of grades. I will always get into trouble. Ever since kindergarten, I was spending my time on the principal's office. elementary, middle school, high school, even college, even my first, well, even my every job that I had, I had problems with the decision makers. But I have to say it's always been because of my ideals of what is correct. I mean, if I see somebody being bullied, I will defend that person. If I see the teacher screaming at one of my teammates, I will defend those people. So I will get into trouble not because I was fighting with other people, but fighting for the right people. So I really focus on trying to do the right things, but not trying to put in much effort into school. Um, that was until the when I was a freshman on college. Um, I was asked once by a person that I will consider one of my second mothers. Uh, she asked me once, "How are you gonna provide to your family?" And that question, I don't know why it struck me, but it did struck me. On Well, she's making a point. I mean, right now we have a competitive, even more so now. It's just been like 4 or 5 years after that. Um, we have a competitive market, a global market. We have emerging markets as well: Mexico, Brazil, China, Asia, Europe. I mean, if you're in the US listening to this, you have plenty of people, not only in your hometown state, but also internationally, who are being more prepared than you are. So you have to ask yourself, how are you going to steal the opportunities that other people are going to have? Or how are you going to make opportunities for more people in your area and other people as well? So if you're thinking in being employee or employer, how are you going to make that? So that's really where I started my story on how or why to focus. That's the why of it. How am I going to survive? How am I going to provide to a family? How am I going to provide to myself and pay for a house? Not living in rent or net rent, but having a proper house. So that's kind of the question that trying to answer. Was that kind of a
Yeah, I mean, so what was your so you went to college and you kind of weren't thinking about kind of anything. What was your sort of plan? I guess before all that, kind of what because it's interesting, right? A lot of people don't really know what they kind of want to do. Kind of what was your thinking kind of as you kind of grew up?
So before and after college, right? My cousins, because I live in a manufacturing area. The city where I live, here in the border, is more of a manufacturing site. And in the US, here in South Texas, there's warehouses. So everything is on manufacturing or on logistics. Most of the people that I know are engineers. So I always thought, well, I want to be an engineer. Even though I never knew what it was that, I always thought it was
And you
some
hated
sort of
school too, right? I mean, how are you going to be an engineer if you hate school?
I mean, I always thought that it was going to be some sort of a video game every day. I didn't even know what was the engineer. I just thought it was having a blue helmet and being in front of a computer, laughing at other people. I mean, that's what we're kind of doing right now. So I really didn't know what the concept of engineering was. After I had that question struck me, uh, I switched my mindset on, well, what skills do I have right now if I want to be employed and if I want to make my own company or so. So I started researching the market, especially with recruiters. What job postings are right now? What job postings are on LinkedIn? I didn't even knew what LinkedIn was back then. So I started my account, even though I didn't have any friends. I just started researching, and one of the things that I found was in the highest positions for engineers or the highest paid engineers were black belts, which is people who make projects for reduce defects in the manufacturing area or in the logistics area by using statistics. And then if you have a million units, how are you going to have that in less than 3.4 parts of defects per that million? I mean, that's the overall concept. How are you going to reduce the or have the least amount of defects by using statistics? So I started reading statistics, and that's where I met on one of the ASQs, Dr. Wheeler, who is one of the rock stars of of quality management. Yeah, I mean, if you listen to punk music, you're gonna have I don't know, some 41 or something like that. If you go to ASQ, you're gonna have Dr. Wheeler. That's the person that you wanna get into. So I
Okay.
bought like 10 books of Dr. Wheeler, and that was somebody who before having that interest to focus on how to improve myself, I never read a single book, so it was a pain for me because I couldn't, I didn't have the culture of reading, and before that I kind of think that people who were reading books were I don't know, pompous or something like that. I mean, fake people. But I saw the value of books, and then reading all of the books, applying those books, I
Wait.
went into internships.
Well, hold up.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
you're in college during all of this.
I'm in college. I never read a single
You get
book.
that aha moment from your second mother, quote unquote,
Yes,
and then you're like, all right, let's do this.
in
And
an
the
outfit.
first thing you did, just so I'm making sure I'm crystal clear, was you create a LinkedIn post because you're like, I gotta find recruiters. You're like, I still am an engineer. I'm gonna play video games. It's gonna be great. And then you start. The journey was you realize that most engineers, like the highest paid ones, had Six Sigma, black belt, all that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
you're like, I guess I'll do it. And then you decide to start reading for the first time these books.
You gotta start somewhere.
Oh my god!
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Once I get the skills, once I got the skills, my idea was to get a first job. I was still in my second year, so I wasn't even out of school yet. But I still wanted the experience because if you know, you have the knowledge, and if you don't apply it, you're gonna forget about it. So I went into 30. That's a three with a zero. 30 interviews for internships, and the first 10 interviews that I had with companies, I just wanted to dump those interviews. I just went for more interviews because I wanted the experience on how to speak to managers or hiring people. And once I get into the 25th one, I started getting more of the steps on what type of questions they do. And then I got into two opportunities. One was a terrific opportunity for engineering management. It was more of a middle level, even though I wasn't still an engineer. Uh,
You got offered a mid level engineering
wait, wait,
job,
wait,
and
wait, wait.
you're in year
I'm
two of
gonna go
college.
and taking that, and then the pay was great for even a student. That was great to pay. Just to find out that a week later, one of my friends, one of the persons that were studying on the same school, he was looking for a job. He was unemployed for 2 years, and because he knew the people were there, they kind of get the job. And he said, "Oh, you know, they was gonna give this job to this this college kid, but because I know the people over there and they're my friends. I mean, I got more recommended, and they were gonna give him the contract, but I mean, they gave it to me right in my face. So I mean, it hurt my feelings, right? And because I wanted to keep the story, I didn't want to tell him that I was that person. I didn't tell him that. Just let him be. But I still have my plan B. Was the other company, my first job, and I went in there for a supervisor job. because I had the skills, right? I already have several certifications. Um, so I got into the interview, and the first thing they tell me is, well, tell us about you, why you want to apply for supervisor, and say directly to them, I don't want the supervisor, I don't care for that department. I care for this position. And then that's where they started saying, well, you're kind of confident, aren't you? Well, that's what I want. I mean, you already had me here, and it is for a reason. Then let's just get into business. I mean, you want me to help me help you. And that's where they got, okay, what do you want us to do, and what are you proposing us that you're going to do? Well, I'm going to help you with your cost savings. So that's essentially what I'm going to do for you. And I think that if you give me this title, I'm going to give you these projects. And if we just go to the shop floor, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. And they just started laughing. They just started laughing because they couldn't believe what I was saying, right? Um, the overconfidence that I had myself that day was what opened me the doors for that job. And because most of my friends were applying for internships, I already have a middle type of manager position on my first job,
Right.
and that's where the problems and all of the cars start falling on me, because once I got inside, that's where you find yourself, okay, now what the heck I'm gonna do?
Right. You're like,
Because
I thought I knew what I
I
wanted,
had
but
no supervision, I had no help on my first job. I have a whole team on myself, watching me, wanting me for help. So I was a CI coordinator, which is most companies have that, like upper level management, but it was a middle level there.
okay.
Um, so it was hard for me because I didn't know what to do. Now I'm telling you that, Kyle, and because I didn't know how to complete the projects that I was promising, that's where stage two in Mauricio's path journey began.
So this is all your second year of college.
Yeah.
Like, so everyone's going through internships. You basically in college had your aha moment, decided to start reading. Did you ever, I guess before you even started going for this internship, because I love that idea of like, I got this knowledge now, I need to use it. Because if I don't use it, I'm gonna forget it. What did you ever have moments? I mean, especially as you're doing this kind of self-guided journey, did you ever have moments where you're like, what am I doing? Like, I'm confused, like I'm lost. Am I even going down the right path? Or how did you kind of, I mean, first of all, you absolutely have so much self-confidence that I think anyone listening to this is going to be like, damn, I need to get some Mauricio like vibes going down for sure. But like, did you have self-doubt? I mean, that's one thing that like, I think for myself, I like, even when I'm like, I know what I want to do, but like, you always had that self-doubt. Did you have anything?
I guess not. I
During
mean,
stage one. Stage two, Mauricio probably is like, uh
I
oh.
guess that's kind of a Dunking Kroger effect. The the beginning is easier than once you get inside of it. So as I was telling you, it was easy for me selling myself into it, even though I knew this how to do it. I really don't didn't have the practical skills to do it.
Hmm.
I mean, you might know the math and statistics, but actually applying it is harder, and it's harder because you have to manage people.
Hmm.
That's the thing, because you can learn all the methodologies there are. You can work with machines, you can work with products, but you cannot work with people because people have their own minds. So that's one of the bumps that I have. And well, that's Mauricio in the first week throwing up. I did throw up almost every day that week because I had to read almost 5 or 6 books the first week because I didn't have the practical definitions. I mean, the buzzwords that everybody was using. What was?
Yeah, the algorithms, all the crazy stuff that everyone has all the
The
time.
insight system, right?
Right.
So I got a call from the band manager. Come to my office. Okay, you're gonna be now the champion for this project, which is our customers, which is right now one of the top, the first or second place in automakers. Um, and you're gonna work with them in a daily basis. So that's another problem for me because in corporate level, nobody was having that much attention, and still it was me on college, right? I had to manage this some sort of a customer relationship management, doing this multi-million dollar projects, and I still didn't have a clue what to do. Fortunately, that's where I met this person, and I had him in LinkedIn. I've been talking with, I mean, his first name is Justin. I've been talking with Justin, and then the second week of my job, he came in here in Mexico. He's from Michigan. Uh, we had a friendly talk, and that's where he opened me to supply chain because he asked me this simple question. He said, "Where do you want to focus, Mauricio?" Well, I mean, here in manufacturing, how's that question? Because you have this skills in black belt, and you want to do this projects on defects in manufacturing, but you have to ask yourself, where do you want to put in your hours, your working hours, and have the most effect for your shareholders, for your boss, and for your customers. I mean, the people who are using your products. Where do you want to work? I mean, I still don't get you, Justin. He said, if I'm a shareholder, I mean, and this is where the second stage came in. If you have $1 as a shareholder and you put it in into a company, where do you think that's gonna go? I got no idea, Justin. I mean, I'm no shareholder, but you gotta know the basics. He said to me, you gotta know the basics. If you put for every dollar that a shareholders gives into a company, 10 to 15% goes directly into manufacturing, 15% goes into administrative or handling costs, and almost 70% goes to supply chain, which is sourcing or logistics. So I'm going to ask you again, you really want to focus on only that project, which is still great. I mean, you're talking about $500,000, $1 million project. But how much is that going to take you? 6 months, a year, where you can do $100 million savings just by focusing that same time amount. And that's where I started asking myself, okay, so I spent my last 2 years studying Six Sigma and all these books. Was I focusing wrong? What is supply chain management? I mean, that's where I still have stress from projects, and then I'm being asked by this Justin guy, maybe you're focusing not on the right path. Oh my God, that's something that struck me. That was the second part, the second question that struck me, Kyle. So, what was supply chain management? That was my question. I didn't know what was that even definition. I only knew that was one of the buzzwords that everybody was using, and I just reached out to Apex. I mean, the Association for Supply Chain Management, and I said the same thing to myself. Well, if I want to be an engineer with a high paying job or provide to other people, then I have to study myself on supply chain management. Uh, so I started. I mean, one of the first books that I got was Supply Chain Management for Dummies. That's
Oh, yeah.
and it's a basic book. That's one of the first things that got me. I mean, I was a dummy right then. Um, So I started studying as well. And the more that I started working with Justin, I was working with him in a daily basis. Every day we were having phone calls, and he was giving me courses on the methodology on our project. In a nutshell, that project went into I believe it was $150 million project. So it was. I mean, I don't know how many people do that type of projects, but it's impressive. Even now, for my experience, I haven't done anything alike. Um, so once I stopped with my path into supply chain management, I went to my certifications. Um, Supply chain logistics professional, supply chain professional, supply chain planning, and having all this encompasses. Um, and that's where I met Carol Patak. That's my third pathway. Carol Patak right now is one of the principles in demand-driven planning, which is one of the least or the latest planning methodologies. And I met her in Mexico City, one of the courses that she was giving personally because she has a position right there in the association, has to manage globally thousands of people. Um, and I met her, and she said this to me, and these are the words that kind of struck me. This is from the third person that helped me move into my career pathway. She said to me, Mauricio, I really respect you and like you. I say, how come, Carol? She said, well, because first of all, you're the first person in your age range between 20 25 years that has paid a freaking attention to what we do. Because most people are early or in their late 40s or 50 years. And that's kind of what you said in the beginning, that most of the people right now are almost hitting retirement age. So that's something great that she find in myself. She said, "Well, because you're a young professional that's paying attention to supply chain, and because what you're doing is learning, it's much easier for you to adapt into new times. Because if you look at me with my several master's degree, my whole certifications, almost 40 years, IBM, Oracle, and what is it called? Well, JD Edwards and the other company. She was been a VP for these companies. I might not be as able as a new person to solve problems because I might have 40 years of experience. I might know how to solve every company's problems, but that's because I have this experience from the past. You instead have this knowledge, and you're more open for new ideas. So you can solve different types of problems with new ideas. I because I'm so educated, you reach a level where you're so educated that you know how to solve things. You start solving things in new ways. But because you don't know how to solve things, you start looking for solutions. So I started laughing because I don't know if that was some sort of a compliment or offense. She said to me,
No, that's
"You
a
don't
total
know."
compliment. Yeah, that's interesting, dude. I am my jaw is to the floor right now. I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, it is that's the kind of cool thing, especially is like this industry, right? It's filled with people with 40 years of experience that they know how to solve the way that they know how to solve it, the way that makes sense in their brain. But there's so much opportunity. It's so interesting, especially you kind of coming in. Sorry, I did interrupt. I mean, it just this your journey's amazing, dude.
Yeah, so I guess that's something. I mean, if we were to give a message to those listeners, is that especially the youngsters who are our focus for this podcast, is that we might not have the same knowledge or experience of other peoples in higher positions or with more experience, But because we don't have that experience, we're more open and prompt for new ideas and new solutions. And we're looking for different ways because we don't know how to solve things, so we have to reinvent the wheel. They already know about the wheel, they already know the circle, but we don't know if it is a cube or a triangle. So we have to discover that. So that's the way that really helped me set my path into Industry 4.0 because once I went into, and that's where I started with this other company, which is BotAutomations. We started focusing on, well, we're kind of new in the market, but because we're new in the market and we have the experience on cost savings, how can we help these companies which might not be as open, as open as new people, the youngsters, for new solutions. And well, once you get into the idea that there's almost 3,000 companies just in the northern Mexico position, that's where our market is. We're located in Texas. Uh, and these 3,000 companies right now have to focus on competitiveness. They have to think, well, we want to stay here in the onshore or nearshore, how are we going to remain our operations? So that's kind of where we focus on. We focus on bringing cost savings that enable jobs staying here in Mexico or in the US. So to bring competitiveness to the companies. And well, right now, what I'm focusing on is studying a master's degree in Industry 4.0. Because right now, if you focus, as you mentioned, uh, Shima is one of the professors in West Michigan University. He said once in one of his webinars. Right now, especially where you live in Boston area, Michigan area, right now, all of the people with management positions are people in their late 40s, 50s, and it's never been a biggest opportunity for getting to a market since the last 40, 50 years because the last 5 decades where this opportunity of jobs entries was after the World War II. That's where all of the late boomers and Generation X started their careers, and now they're retiring, and now they're leaving these job postings open for new people to get into. So either if you want to focus on supply chain or you want to focus on robotics and Industry 4.0 and data analytics, right now is the point where you have to make the decision: do I want to focus into a high paying company, which is going to give me, I mean, in the US and Michigan, 70K right outside of school? Or if I want to bring myself into somewhere where I might not have that same paying job. I mean, I respect all people who have different minors and careers or pathways, but I really have to focus on myself. I mean, if I were to have arts degree or communications degree, is there really somewhere that I can get a job that can pay the living standard I have right now? I mean, that's something that I have to ask myself because I would really like to have myself on opera and theater. I really like being on theaters, but I cannot stay or live on doing those soap operas. I have to find a way to bring value to people, bring value to myself as in pain, and then how can I help other people in my community? If I have my job as in Industry 4.0 servicer, I don't think myself as somebody who's getting rich upon other companies. I think of myself helping my communities remain competitive, and by being competitive, by giving service, I help jobs staying in the communities where I am. So that's kind of the mentality where I'm thinking. My goal right now is helping people with the knowledge that I have, and by helping these people I mean, that's the other thing that Justin taught me. I mean, you might think on selling something, but we also sell it to a price point, right? So we don't do it by our services are not free. Our goal is helping people, but because we sell things, that's what help us, allow us, empower us to help people. I mean, you gotta think it like in a car. If you wanna go into a road trip, I don't know, to Appaloosa or something like that, that's your goal, right? You want to go to a concert in Arizona, which is 4 5 hours away from your home place. Uh, that's your goal. You want to help people. You still have to fill in the gas tank. So by filling the gas tank, that's the way you sell it. You sell services by filling your gas tank. You have to have an income, your revenue, which will allow you to go through the roadway. That's what I do. I mean, I sell services,
Right, right.
help
But
people.
your passion, but what you're also doing is
My
bringing
passion is my
you're helping
passion.
everyone. Like I love it, right? It's the big thing is how do you everyone kind of wants to do that, right? It kind of that's the thing. We're a globally connected world. We see others kind of suffering and what others are going through, and we have this natural compassion to want to go out and help. And you've been able to find that in the supply chain, which is such an interesting thing because a lot of people think I got to go into nonprofit, I got to do this, but like you say, right? I mean, helping yeah, something may be sold, right? But it's also moving goods, moving services. You're moving stuff from point A to point B. And if like right now, not where we're kind of experiencing stuff is what happens when that fails, and you kind of able to see that and still feel that like, okay, cool, I'm helping, right? I might not be out there plowing snow. I might not be out there kind of doing kind of those like FEMA or those things that government support, but I am helping. I'm helping move the supply chain, helping people kind of continue the normal flow of what we as a global community all believe in. Dude, man, I cannot believe your story. I can't believe that the power the belief you have in yourself is amazing. As we start to wrap up, I mean, I know we get way over the time. What's your pitch, right? Pitch the young folks. I mean, the ones who don't believe in themselves as much as you do. What should they? You sort of talked a little bit about why the supply chain matters to you, but where should they start? I mean, you went through so many different journeys to kind of get into the supply chain. What kind of knowing, looking back on stuff, what's the best place to start with all this?
I guess that the best place to start is on Google. I mean, that's where I started, asking simple questions. And right now, we have LinkedIn. If you reach out to somebody, I mean, if you reach out to Kyle or reach out to me, I'll be happy to answer any question or any career path. I've been asked by other people, hey, how can I get into these jobs? How can I get into this career? And I'd be glad to do that as well to other people. So if I were to give a pitch to someone on where to start, is by asking other people, and that's the simple question. I mean, how do I start my career? And I know that we're wrapping up, but I just was reading this story of this gas station worker. He asked this simple, humble question to a financier in Mexico City. He knocked on his door. I mean, he was driving in a B&B. I mean, right there in Mexico City, it's kind of a mid-luxury vehicle. Um, how do I start a career in finance as I see that you're doing very well to yourself? And what this person, I think his name is Alfonso, did to this gas station worker, he invited to a coffee and he gave him a tip on how to build a career in finance because this guy wanted to start a small fleet in Uber, so he wanted to invest his money and he didn't know where to start, so he helped me by giving him tips on how to manage his investments. So I guess that you should never put yourself any roadblocks by asking other people. I mean, the least you already have you already have the no. You already win the no. So how can you win the yes? So you gotta ask more questions to people. That's the page that I will give to other youngsters as well as myself. You have the no. You already have the no. How do you win the yes?
Dude, man, I love it. I absolutely love it. This needs to be a course. That people need to watch this. They need to youngsters need to watch this. They need to learn Google. They need to learn not being afraid to talk to someone, because you already are gonna get the no's there, right? Like you say, you already have the no. How do you get the yes? And what's the worst of having a no, right? You got no. I mean, you literally talked your way into a mid-level job as your sophomore year in college when all your friends were doing internships. There's the ability, folks. Mauricio, you kind of mentioned it, LinkedIn. How do people get in contact with you? What's the best way? We'll include show notes, so I'll put the link to your LinkedIn in the show notes and stuff. But what's the best way for someone to get in touch with you if they want to kind of hear some stuff and kind of want to know a path that you've taken? Because you've taken a long journey, but you've gotten like really fascinating here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can reach me out on LinkedIn as Mauricio Solano or on my email, mauricio.solano at BotAutomations.com. That's the best way to reach me out. I'm always connected on my phone, so I don't know, maybe 10 seconds or so, I might reply to you.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much, Mauricio, for joining me today, man. I enjoyed this
Uh,
conversation so much.
Thank you, Kyle. I mean, right now I feel less cool because of the
Yeah,
weather.
stay
So
warm, my man.
take care.
You too. Bye.
And that's our show. Are you a supply chain professional under the age of 30 interested in talking about your journey? Let me know in the comments section and I'll be sure to have you on the show. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching Consulting Logistics. I'm Comic Knot. Rock and roll.